Welcome back to Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast that's all about nurturing our mental health and well-being. I'm MommaFoxFire, and I am so glad you are here today. Whether you've been with me for a while or you're tuning in for the first time, you are in the right place for real, honest conversations about mental health, resilience, and finding ways to thrive in the messiness of life. Before we jump into today's episode, let's talk about the time of year. It's the last week of January, and for a lot of people, this can be a really tough stretch. The excitement of the new year might be wearing off. The cold weather, shorter days, post-holiday blues, and a lot of other events around this time of year can really impact your mental health, and it can take a hit. If you're feeling this, you're not alone. Take a moment to check in with yourself. How are you really doing? Maybe you need a little more rest or some time outside during the day. Maybe you just need to let yourself off the hook for not sticking to every goal you set this month. That's okay. Your worth is not measured by your productivity. Give yourself some grace and don't hesitate to reach out to someone you trust if you need a little extra support right now. On to today's topic, stress, diabetes, and laughter yoga. Those three things might not seem connected, but in this case they are. Chronic stress is something most of us deal with, and if we're not careful, it can take a serious toll on both our mental and physical health. Stress isn't just in our heads. It shows up in our bodies in ways that can lead to all kinds of issues, like heart problems, weakened immune systems, and even conditions like diabetes. That's exactly what happened to my guest today, Professor Pete Alexander. He's a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and certified laughter yoga leader who's transformed his own experience with stress-induced diabetes into a mission to help others live healthier, less stressful lives. Pete shares his personal journey, how laughter yoga became a powerful tool for stress relief, and why even a fake laugh can trick your body into feeling better. This episode is packed with real talk about the cost of ignoring stress, actionable tips for managing it, and inspiring stories about the healing power of laughter. I think you'll walk away from this conversation feeling both encouraged and ready to approach stress in a whole new way. Before we get into the interview, I would love to hear from you. What's something that's been helping you handle stress lately? Or maybe you've tried laughter yoga before and have a story to share. You can find me on social media. I'm at MommaFoxFire everywhere, or leave a comment wherever you're listening to this episode. Your insights could be exactly what someone else needs to hear. All right, let's jump right into my conversation with Professor Pete. This conversation today because we're going to be talking about some really cool things and some things that I'm not super well versed in, which is always something that I love to learn new things. So laughter yoga in particular is something that I want to know more about. But I am joined today. Oh, I forgot to open up this question queue. Let me do that really quick. I am joined today by Professor Pete Alexander. We're going to have a conversation about stress, diabetes, and laughter yoga. I am opening a question queue. If you have any questions while we are live and you are here either on Twitch or YouTube, feel free to drop those into the chat and I will make sure to address them here tonight. And Pete, thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join us today.
MommaFoxFire, thank you so much for having me on your show, and I really appreciate all the listeners' time as well.
Absolutely. So let me tell y'all a little bit about Professor Pete Alexander, and I will share some social links as well. Pete Alexander is the president of the greatest interior landscaping company in the San Francisco Bay Area, Office Plants by Everything Grows, which is a great name, by the way. In addition, he has served as an adjunct college professor for several universities, where he helped inspire thousands of students to develop and apply key concepts of marketing specifically to their area of interest. He is also a TEDx speaker and best-selling author on reducing stress in your everyday life, which we are going to talk about today. And lastly, but certainly not least, he's a certified laughter yoga leader and improv comedy cast member, supporting his community to laugh more and stress less, which is a great goal. If you are looking to connect today, I have a couple of links for you. I've got LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Feel free to pop over there, give him a follow, and like I always say, engagement is king, so make sure that you like a couple posts, leave a comment a couple places. all of that will help all of the algorithms. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for being here. And I'm excited for this conversation. So Pete, how did you get into interior landscaping to begin with?
Well, it's interesting. I was working back, this is in the 2005. I was working for the second company in a row that got bought by its competitor. And if you've ever had that experience, it's a weird one. Whether you're the acquiring company or you're the company that's being acquired. And I just kind of felt like I wanted to have a little bit more control over my future. And so I started looking for particular businesses. And, I didn't want like a retail store where you've got these just enormous hours. Didn't want to be in food because, there's that is just so much work as well. And then I uncovered this landscaping business. And basically what it is it's plants in buildings. And so what's really cool about the business is it's one of these kinds of businesses that a lot of people don't even realize is a business, but somebody has to be taking care of those plants if they're looking really nice. And so, and there's a lot of brown thumbs out there. And so I decided to acquire it. And it's funny, the very first year that I got it, I bought it from the second owner, and the second owner had bought it for his wife to run. And the day that escrow closed, she said, "No, I don't want to run it." And so he was working full time, and he was basically doing whatever little to run the business. And for the year he owned it, it just started tanking big time. Yeah. And when I acquired it, the first year that I was running it, I was thinking to myself, I made a huge mistake as well. It was, and it just was awful. And then finally, after a year, it started to turn around, and it's grown every year since then, other than when COVID hit. Because when COVID hit, it was a torpedo that you never would have expected, especially for interior landscaping, because we only focus on businesses. And when everybody was working from home, nobody's coming into the offices. So if nobody's coming into the offices, you don't need plants there. And so we lost 60% of our business in the first 30 days back in March of 2020. Yeah. And it took us 3 years to recover, but we did. And now we're stronger than ever. And I'm very grateful that the staff that we have, that everybody pulled together and we were able to come out stronger. It basically, if we could survive that, feel like we pretty much can survive anything.
Yeah. So has it completely bounced back from COVID? Are you still having any issues with, not everyone is in an office anymore?
Yes, but what happens is where the issue is mostly companies. There's a lot of companies who just decided to go completely remote, but the trend now is that they want to bring people back into the office, at least part-time.
Yeah.
And so there may not be as much square footage in various customers, but they do still need the plants. And the other thing is that what's really great about having the plants in office environments, they've been clinically proven from university research all over the world that it actually cleans the air as well as helps reduce stress. So it's a perfect one that fits into my whole portfolio personally.
Yeah. So I was going to make that connection too, because there are so many studies that say, even just looking at a picture of nature, if you can't actually go look at a plant, or you can't go to a park or go into a forest, even looking at a picture of nature can really help reduce stress. So which came first for you? Was it like love of plants or trying to de-stress?
Love of plants. Yeah, because it was the stress. I was, well, technically, stress was my first thing. It wasn't a love of stress, that's for sure. But it was, ever since growing up in a dysfunctional family. But it wasn't until I paid attention to that, and that was many years later. And actually, the plant business added to my stress too before I realized what was going on.
Yeah.
So basically, the plant business came first, is how I like to convey it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a lot of plants in your own home now? Do you
I
get
don't
to?
have a ton of them, but I keep several of them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what happens is that part of our business is that when a plant starts to fail, what we do is we take that plant out, we replace it with a new one, we bring it back into our facility and try and rehab it. And assuming we can rehab it, then it can actually be used at another client. But if somebody needs a replacement plant, but sometimes you get plants that they just, for whatever reason, they can't come back to being lush anymore. And
Yeah.
so those are ones that we'll either donate to different, like the library or something like that, or we'll bring them home and use them ourselves.
I love that so much. You're a rescue plant. You're a rescue plant mission.
Yes,
That's wonderful. That's fantastic.
it is. It is.
I'm here for it. I love that. Hey, 488. Hey, Dr. D. How are you guys today? We are talking about laughter, diabetes, and stress yoga. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to drop them into the chat, and we'll talk about them while we're here live. But I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome. So, Pete, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy working or sharing your story like you're doing tonight?
Probably my first love would be hiking, because I absolutely love to be out in nature, and hiking has been it offers so many benefits to me. I get the exercise, of course. I get to be out in nature. I get to be out in the sun or rain, depending on what the weather is like.
Yeah.
And then if I'm hiking with other people as well, you can have a really great conversations. It's just we have really in depth, and it's a wonderful combination of different things that bring me joy, and so I just that's my number one passion that I have outside of anything else, and secondly would be pickleball. I like playing pickleball as well, and then in addition, going to sporting events with my kids, that's a big one as well.
Yeah. We had someone just recently on here who was talking about pickleball. That's something that I'm not overly familiar with, but it's becoming more and more popular. Like you're hearing more and more people talk about pickleball, and it's really interesting just to see kind of the rise of it.
It is. And it's funny because it took a long time for me to even try it, because I played several years of tennis and racquetball and squash. And every time I saw pickleball, it just looked like it was, it didn't look like a real sport, is what it just looked like a goofy sport. And it wasn't until my business partner started playing and he says, you ought to come out and play. And so then I went out with him and I had a blast.
Yeah.
And then I just started playing, at least once a week ever since that. And I really enjoy it. There's, just like with any sport, you're going to run into some hotheads and stuff. But for the most part, it's a fun game. And really, it's not difficult to learn either. It's quite simple. It's kind of like if tennis and ping pong had a kid, it's pickleball.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you got to go try it at least once, and then you'll know if you like it or not.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? It's funny. I always suggest to people, try it twice. And the reason being is because the first time you're more in your head. You're going, I got to learn how to do this. I've got to, I'm trying to look good doing it, whatever that. And this is, whether it's sports or any activity. So you're too much, it's human nature. We're too much in our heads when we're trying it the first time. So do it twice and, try and do a clean slate after the first time and then make the decision after the second time. That's always the best thing to do. That's what I mentioned to people with laughter yoga as well, because when people come to the class for the very first time, it's very unnatural feeling because laughing for no reason, who does that? And so, and then, get people who will think, oh, I can't laugh as good as that person. And it's like, we're not competing on laughter,
Yeah.
all these goofy things are going on. So once you know what to expect, then come back and just take it all in the second time and then make a decision whether or not it's something that feels right for you.
Try it twice. That's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
use that on my kids. No more one bite of dinner and say you don't like it. You got to try it twice.
Right. Exactly. Because the taste buds might have made a mistake the first bite.
It's true. It's very true.
That's right.
My kids are 10 and 17. They're not going to fall for this.
Oh, yeah. Especially the 17-year-old.
Yeah.
So, the funny thing is that when my daughter turned 13, I remember I had a neighbor who told me a really big advice that actually really did come true. And she told me, she said, with teenagers, you love them, but you don't necessarily like them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Yes. Can confirm. That is absolutely true. There are plenty of moments. True. Plenty of moments where I'm like, wow, you suck right now. I love you so much. But you suck. In the most loving way possible.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Exactly.
He thinks the same about me, so it's fine.
Well, and you know what? At some point, and that's what all kids do, because I did it as well. We think our parents are dumb, but amazingly, as we get older, our parents get smarter.
Yep. I don't remember who said it, but fairly recently I heard someone say something like, from the time you're 13, 14, 15 until the time you're 25, your parents know nothing. And then all of a sudden at 25, they know everything again.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how that works?
Yep. Seems about right from what I recall as well.
I wish it was only 25 because kids are let's see, one is 23, but the other two, 27 and 29, and the 27 and the 29-year-olds still think that we don't know anything.
Yeah. I mean, it takes some a little longer, I guess. That makes sense. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
I do, actually. I was always intrigued by Jack the Ripper, and reading up on the different books about them, as well as the different storylines on it. And one of my real favorite parts of Jack the Ripper is not necessarily that crime, but there was a story that was made into a movie called Time After Time back in 1979. One of my all-time favorite movies. And what the storyline is H.G. Wells, the author, creates this time machine. And he's got this time machine. He's just a scientist during the time of Jack the Ripper. And Jack the Ripper gets into the time machine, goes forward into 1979 San Francisco, and starts killing women in San Francisco in 1970. And H.G. Wells chases him into the future to try and stop him. And so it really intriguing story. Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 88%. So I highly recommend if no one's seen that movie, watch it. It's good. And in addition to the storyline being so really good, it's also fun to watch it because you see all these cars from the 1970s and just, pre-internet days, pre-cell phone days. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I've got a link to the movie right there. And then I'm also going to link another book that I read about the victims of Jack the Ripper. And I will preface this by saying it is a dense and heart-wrenching book. So it's called The Five, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper. And if you like history, if you like reading about any of that kind of thing, not even necessarily true crime, just history, because they go into the detailed lives of these women. And it's a fascinating read. It took me a very long time to read. I'm a pretty quick reader. It took me weeks to get through this book.
Oh, wow.
And it's just one of those. I think I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars, but boy, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. But I haven't seen Time After Time, so I'm going to add it to my want to see list as well, because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And Malcolm McDowell, that plays H.G. Wells, and I don't ever remember him being young, and you see him being young in this movie. So it's definitely worth it. And if anyone ever gets to London, they do like a night walk on Jack the Ripper as well. So something else to consider if you like the kind of the heebie-jeebies kind of thing.
I do indeed. If I ever make it over to London, that'll be on the list for sure to go and do. All right, well, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. And the first one that we're going to talk about is just stress and your diagnosis of stress-related diabetes, because that's one that, I've heard, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, everyone has their preconceived notions about what causes those two and everything. But can you walk us through the moment that you realized that your stress was having serious health consequences?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional family, and that was the start of it because whenever each of us, if we grow up in dysfunction, we take on a particular role. And mine was the hero role, where I wanted to do well in school because I wanted to get out of all the dysfunction. And mostly it was around alcoholism and drug use. Well, what happened was after I became an adult and I started working, I never learned how to deal with that stress. So I kept it bottled up, churning inside of me. The toxicity inside of me was awful. And what happened was that in 2008, I was dealing with a huge number of stressful things going on, both personally and professionally, including my dad dying, and he didn't have his affairs in order. My mom, who they were divorced, they actually were divorced, married and divorced twice. And
wow.
So, but she was had major surgery and didn't have the physical therapy or the insurance for the physical therapy to help herself recover, so she needed help. I had my business, had several employees that needed my attention. My kids were young at that time and wanted dad's attention. And oh, by the way, I was heading for a divorce. So needless to say, there were all these things that were just stacked up on my shoulders. Well, then all of a sudden, I started losing weight rapidly. And at first, I was in my mid-40s. At first, it was fantastic. I was eating whatever I wanted. I wasn't doing any special exercise, and the weight kept coming off. And then when the 30th pound came off in 30 days, I was
wow.
I better have this checked out.
Yeah.
They ran blood work. Doctor comes back and says, "Congratulations, you have stress-induced diabetes." And I said, "Why is it stress-induced diabetes?" Well, there's no genetic family history of diabetes. In fact, I only have a distant cousin who had diabetes, at least going back several generations. And basically, as a type A personality, I kept on dumping cortisol and adrenaline into my body. When we're stressed, that's what happens. Our bodies are the same bodies we had back in the Stone Age. And, back then we would deal with, fight or flight, where we have to fend off a saber-toothed tiger, a T-Rex, whatever it happens to be. But nowadays, we let our mental issues just continue to churn inside of us, dumping that cortisol, dumping that adrenaline in. And what happens when you continuously do that, it's not, if you were to ask a doctor, technically stress does not directly cause diabetes or heart disease or cancer, etc. But what happens is stress creates cellular inflammation. And it's that cellular inflammation in our bodies that leads to chronic disease. And classic thing for me is I went ahead and I said, well, I don't have time. I'm too busy. I don't have time to deal with this. Go ahead and just give me the medication and let me keep on going in my life. Well, so what did I do? I continued to burn the candle at both ends for another 10 years until 2018 rolls around, and I end up in the emergency room 1 hour from being comatose with
Wow.
blood sugars so high that the medical grade glucometers could not read it. They just said it was high. So the lab at the hospital had to manually estimate it, said it was 8 to 10 times higher than normal. And I was in an acute and very dangerous case of what's called diabetic ketoacidosis. And for those listening who don't know what that is, basically my body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And that was nuts. And I had to have this moment where I thought, you know what? If I continue doing this, because I ended up being in ICU for several days after this incident, and I sat there and I thought, if I continue going down this direction, I'm not going to be around to meet my future grandchildren. So
Yeah.
for the first time in my life, I decided to do something about my health. And so I started, trying different, after I got out of the hospital, I started experimenting with different stress relief tools and activities. And a lot of them worked, some of them didn't. But what I noticed was that not only did my stress go down after I got out of the hospital, but my blood sugars as a diabetic went down, my weight went down, and my energy level went way, way up. It was as if I had discovered the fountain of youth. And if you were to see a picture of me from 2008 when I was first diagnosed, and you see me now, other than a little bit more gray hair, I actually look younger today than I did in 2008. That's what stress does to us. It basically ages us rapidly.
Yeah. I laugh a little bit because it's like you have stress related diabetes. I don't have time for this. That was, I mean, but that's like
Mhm.
how spot on is that response? Because that's probably exactly what I would say. Like, I don't have time for this. Prescribe what you need to prescribe and let me continue.
Yeah, exactly. And the only time that I ever thought about, oh, this is kind of crappy, is when they gave me, so they prescribed me first some, I think it's called glucophage, which didn't do diddly on me, the pills. And then they gave me the insulin pens. And I remember getting this prescription and picking it up at the pharmacy. Pharmacist didn't tell me how to use this thing. And I'm looking at this packet insert and I'm thinking, wait, I have to stab myself in the side with this? I remember thinking, boy, that's crappy. All right, fine. I better do this quick because I got work to do,
Yeah.
and that's it's so ridiculous. The what when we allow ourselves to get to that point, the epiphany moment that I had in the hospital is that I realized that I was trading my health for my career. And that's a really bad trait because as I've learned since 2018, our two greatest assets are our health and time. And we shouldn't waste them. And we really shouldn't waste them.
Yeah. We definitely spend more of our time with work than we do with anything else. Like it's what takes up
Yep.
generally the bulk of people's time. And
Yep.
yeah, to sacrifice your health for that. I mean, I'm guilty of that as well because I definitely let stress impact me in physical ways and I will ignore it until I am showing physical signs that something is wrong. And then now I'll kind of do a little bit of an examination. But a lot of the time, my whole family is this way. But we're like, we'll relax when X happens. Like I'll sleep when the kids graduate. I'll sleep when football season is over for the kids. I'll sleep when this. I'll de-stress when this. And it's like sometimes you gotta give your body a little bit of a break. Did you have, other than losing the weight, were there other signs or that were you're kind of losing health that you ignored? Do you think a lot of people just ignore them?
Yeah. In fact, there's early warning signs that, and I experienced several of these, but there's the early warning signs, both mentally and physically, actually. Like mentally, it might be a lack of concentration where normally you're able to focus, and for whatever reason you can't focus. That could be one. Mood swings where you go from happy to sad or angry at a moment's notice. It could be panic attacks or anxiety over something that may or may not happen in the future. Um, could be prescription drug or alcohol addiction. Those are all ones that typically indicate that you're mentally stressed. Physically, the common ones, before COVID, I used to say that a common one would be like during the winter season, getting multiple colds, like a cold every month instead of one cold for this winter season. That's an example of it because your antibodies are down. But probably the most common one physically is back and shoulder stiffness, because what happens is, especially for those of us who spend a lot of time at a desk, well, when we're stressed, we may not realize this, but we tend to hunch over. And that puts a lot of pressure on our back and our shoulders. Another one would be either excessive or not enough sleep. Another one would be digestive disorders where no amount of Pepto-Bismol is helping. And this was another one that happened to me. I was reaching for the Excedrin bottle every day or every other day instead of occasionally because I was constantly getting headaches. And then the weight fluctuations, whether it's gaining or losing weight rapidly like I did with the diabetes, those are all indicators that you are stressed, physically stressed. And, our bodies, what happens is if we pay attention to it, we can address it before it gets to be more chronic. We just have to pay attention. If we don't, or if we ignore it, then what ends up happening is our bodies have no choice but to keep ramping it up until the weakest link in your chain breaks. And in my case, it was my pancreas. So now I have to deal with this chronic disease for the rest of my life. And it is not fun. I mean, I'm on a pump now, but just because, you think, oh, that must make it easier. No, it doesn't, because the pump, wakes me up in the middle of the night if I'm running high, if I'm running low, and it's not fun. It is not fun dealing with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Your body is trying to tell you something with anything that it does. Your body is trying to tell you something, but it's so tempting to ignore that because you're so busy, because you've got stuff to take care of, because you've got or things that not even that you have to take care of, like for your kids or what. I put things into context with my kids a lot, but sometimes it's like, okay, well, I want to do this other thing, and it's going to cause me stress, but I want to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it's it's not just one reason or another, but a lot of people just ignore those signs.
Well, and you raise a great point, because people think all stress is bad. And that's not actually true. There's good stress and there's bad stress. And good stress is, there's actually a term, it's called eustress, EUSTRESS. And that's stress that comes from something we want to do, that we're passionate about, we're excited about, whatever it happens to be. Well, we need some sort of stress there because typically there's like a deadline associated with it and we need to get it done. That kind of stress is not any problem to us. It does not manifest itself negatively in our bodies. During the research for my book, I found that there was actually 2 flavors of stress that we really should avoid. It's negative stress, or some people call it distress, but the one is ruminating about something in the past. And what's most common here is we're guilty about something we either did or didn't do in the past. And the reality is, it's in the past. We can't change it. We can learn from it. We can take the positive learnings. And then if we can forgive ourselves, instead of letting that guilt just churn inside of us, and it just create that toxicity inside of us. That's huge. So that's one. The other one is, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, about anxiety. of the future. The reality is we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But if we start worrying about it and thinking, oh, something that we've got to do is going to go terribly. A great example of this is we have to have a difficult conversation with somebody. And instead of thinking, okay, it's going to go well, we think, oh, it's going to go terribly. Oh, they're gonna get mad, they're gonna get upset, or if it's talking with an employee, it's just gonna go terrible. And what ends up happening is we often manifest a negative outcome because we're sending all that negative energy towards it. Instead, what's really effective, at least for me and what I recommend to others, is if you have to have a difficult conversation with someone, imagine 5 seconds after the last word in that conversation has been spoken, whether it's from the person you're speaking with or yourself, and then look at the person's face and imagine that they're smiling, that you're shaking hands, that you're hugging, whatever is appropriate in that relationship. And you'll notice that your stress starts going down because you're not thinking about a negative outcome, but you're visualizing a positive outcome. It's a big difference. So if we can eliminate or minimize ruminating about the past and anxiety about something that may or may not happen in the future, all other stress is a piece of cake. It really is.
I want to revisit that example that you gave, because I like that you're talking about not visualizing what conversation you're going to have, not trying to come up with every word you're going to say, but it's the after. It's the okay, visualize it being over and it still being positive, mm-hmm. because you're not going to be able to control the words that come out of the other person's mouth. You're not going to be, at least I can't, always predict what I myself am going to say in the moment with complete accuracy, no matter what, whether it's a positive conversation or a negative one. But yeah, just visualizing okay, it's going to be a tough conversation. It's going to be a hard conversation. Think about after, however it happened, however it played out, they're smiling or shaking hands, hugging, whatever it is. I like that the focus is on that moment after, because it's real easy to think about what's going to happen during and how it could go wrong during, but then focusing on, all right, what's the after? Do you want them to be frowning? Do you want them to be smiling? I love that. I think that's really powerful.
It really is, because you're focusing on, as you said, a very easy to think about, just one event, just that, what happens. And you're right. If you try and script out everything you're going to say, I mean, it's not like you're memorizing a speech. I mean, it's just you have to be able to just kind of go with the flow of how that conversation is. But if you do that and you have that outcome that's a positive outcome, you go into that conversation in a better frame of mind than you would if you're thinking about it going badly.
Yeah. Now, you still have diabetes, so I know that the management of that comes with its own stress. How do you balance now the stress of living with this chronic condition while still reducing the overall stress in your life where you can?
Well, one of the things, like I mentioned about the pump, waking me up in the middle of the night, it's not a fun thing. And like today, I had an issue. For anyone who has diabetes, they probably have a continuous glucose monitor, and that was the technology is great when it works. When it's not working very well, it's not so great. And so there's been some hiccups with that today, and it was making the pump respond very poorly. So, what I used to get really upset. I used to think, I cannot believe I've got to deal with this. It's a constant reminder. That's the problem, is the mistake I made of not dealing with my stress properly. It's a constant reminder. But I've gotten out of the poor me, because you can get into the depression and think, oh, I'm the victim. I let this happen, blah, 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 blah. Well, the reality is it happened. And like we were talking, don't ruminate about the past. It happened. Learn from it. And so now it's just, what I do is I just on a daily basis. Each day, just take it kind of like the old AA thing, one day at a time. You
Yeah.
just take it one day at a time. And, so I have to, if I'm traveling, I got to take all my supplies with me. I can't forget anything because all this stuff is prescription. And you can't, it's not like you can just walk into the pharmacy and just, oh, can I have
Right.
some insulin? In Canada, you can, but in the US, you can't. And there's a high expense to dealing with diabetes as well. And what's interesting too is that there's a stigma that comes with being a diabetic. A lot of people think that, oh, if you're diabetic, oh, you must be lazy. Why do because most of the time, the typical looking diabetic is one that's overweight, just sedentary and stuff. And it's not true. It's not true. And, it's just so frustrating that I could have avoided this if I would have listened to my body. I don't go back and ruminate about it
Yeah.
because it happened. I mean, because it's not going to do me any good to keep on going back and saying, if only I did this, if only I did that. Well, I can't go back in time. Past is past. But what I can do is do the best I can with the situation as is. And so, it's one where it's a lifelong learning ever since I got that. And I'm also, it's nice to be able to talk to other people who have diabetes, because whenever you can find other like minds who understand the challenges that you've got, it's good to be able to talk to people there, because the reality is, talking with somebody who doesn't have to deal with the diabetes, or whatever chronic disease it might be, you can empathize with them. But unless you are dealing with the same disease, it's really hard to fully understand the situation. And so it's good to be able to talk with others. And I have a few friends who have diabetes as well. And you know, one of the things that is a common conversation will be is like, oh, how your blood sugar's doing, and how's this, what's working for you, what's not working for you, so you support each other.
Yeah. Does it matter? Do you find that people who either had diabetes stress induced or maybe they have type 1 diabetes, does that make a difference when you're talking to them? Or is it just kind of once you're under that chronic condition of diabetes, it's a conversation that you can have that kind of helps you feel that support?
It's pretty much diabetes in general. The What's more interesting is the type 1 versus the type 2 versus what I have is, I've got a LEDA is what is it's termed as. It's got characteristics of both type 1 and type 2. And
Interesting.
yeah, and I'm actually one of only 10% of diabetics who got winner, winner, chicken dinner from a negative standpoint. I've also got insulin antibodies. And what that means is that there'll be times where my blood sugars are running high, and no matter how much insulin I take, it won't come down. Well, that's, short term running high is okay because it doesn't damage your body, if it's only running for a day or two at the most. But if it's not controlled over time, that's where it's very problematic with the high blood sugars. But what happens with me with the insulin antibodies is that without any warning, the insulin that the antibodies grab and don't release, then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I could be driving a car. All of a sudden, oh, just going to release a whole bunch of insulin. Well, what happens is then
No.
my blood sugars start plummeting very rapidly. And so I have to keep glucose tablets in my car, because when your blood sugars are going down very rapidly, at a certain point you can become comatose. And So if you are driving and you are a diabetic and you're aware of this and you don't keep glucose tablets in your car, and let's say I go down rapidly and I get into a car accident, they could say that it was a DUI, similar to a DUI, because it was avoidable. I could have taken sugars to get my blood sugars more level. So that's another challenge, and only 10% of diabetics have it. And so, I guess when I went for the diabetic prescription originally back in 2008, I said, "Oh yeah, I'll pay more to get the even more difficult version of it." So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a nightmare just to try to deal with that. Either way, either way you're trying to deal with it, but you get both. Best of worst of both worlds.
Yeah, but I don't let it get me down. I mean,
Yeah, that's
it's
good.
a pain in the ass, and it's like, when it wakes me up in the middle of the night, no, I'm not happy.
Sure.
But sometimes it forces me where I have to get up and take some glucose, and or I have to look at my phone to see what is what is it saying, and so the problem is because I'm a light sleeper. If I'm really start paying attention to it, I end up waking up. My brain wakes up, and guess
Yeah.
what? Now I'm lying in bed waiting to try and fall asleep again, and it takes me an hour to fall asleep. So
Yep. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm that way too. Whenever I get up in the middle of the night, I'm like, okay, don't wake up all the way, or you're going to be awake for a long time. Don't wake up all the way. Like,
yeah.
stay asleep. Just stay. You're thirsty. Take a drink and go back to sleep. Don't wake up.
I know the feeling.
Yep. Because then you're going to be awake, and then your brain is going to be on. Don't let your brain turn on.
That's exactly it. You know exactly what I'm going through.
Yes. Yep. Yep. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you before your diagnosis and before your stress-related health issues?
Well, first and foremost would have been listen to your body. I mean, that your body wants you to be healthy. And so had I listened to it instead of just prioritizing my other responsibilities over my own health, that would be one. Literally don't trade your health for your career. I wish somebody would have told me that. It seems like, it's funny. I think back about different advice I got from, in work and stuff. And it's just, yeah, I guess it would have been helpful, but something that was a game changer. That's what I would have really wanted to. And had I really, I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Yeah.
If somebody told me. That's the problem. Unless, and I had to end up in the emergency room and ICU. I mean, otherwise, I probably would have still been doing it. And it's terrible. I mean, but there are people who do see or hear about what happens to another person and go, you know what, I want to try and avoid that. And those people that are more enlightened, that's definitely don't trade your career, your health for your career. That's absolutely paramount.
That is a great piece of advice, and something that, maybe back in the day, companies were more loyal than they are now, and they really cared about their employees. But the fact is that they don't anymore. Don't care more about your company than your company cares about you.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, I want to switch to talking about laughter yoga because I want to know all about it. You are a certified laughter yoga teacher. So tell me what laughter yoga is and how does it help people manage stress? I love and I love to I'm a very gregarious, I don't know what the right word is. I love to laugh. Absolutely love it. So I'm interested. Tell me all about it.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with laughter. It's a very serious subject.
So serious.
So laughter yoga actually started back in 1995 by a Dr. Maiden Kataria. And what he learned as a medical practitioner is that when we laugh, as you're a gregarious laugher, you know this feeling. So when we laugh for like 5 seconds, 6 seconds or more. You know how great that feels? Yeah, everybody can relate to that. Well, what happens is when we're laughing, our body releases positive endorphins. And those positive endorphins give us all the health benefits such as stress relief, lowering our blood pressure, can help us reduce the onset of chronic disease. There's clinical research from all over the world. There's over 35 studies that clearly show laughter can help in these different medical applications. Well, the secret sauce to laughter yoga is that as smart as our bodies are, they don't know the difference between a real and a simulated laugh. Only knows that we're laughing. And when we laugh, whether it's a real laugh or it's a fake laugh, the positive endorphins are released after 5 to 6 seconds. So in laughter yoga, what we do is we try and connect with our inner child, because when we were children, on average, we probably laughed and laughed, whether it was a full laugh, a smile, a chuckle, whatever it happens to be, 100 times a day. As adults, if we do the same 5 times a day, we're very lucky, because we're in, the minority. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do different activities that get simulated laugh started. And then as a group, when, laughter is so contagious. And so when you see somebody laughing, you hear somebody laughing, you want to laugh as well. Mm-hmm. And so then after a few seconds of the simulated laugh, real laugh starts happening. And I have seen profound, just in my classes, profound results from people who've come in. Like a great story. I remember I had this mother and daughter come in to my class, and clearly mom was dragged by her daughter. And so we did this early on in this activity. She was giving me all these dirty looks, and she just sat there like this, one of those with the, black cloud over her head. And so we did this activity early on. It's called argument laughter. And what you do is you go around the room, and one person starts pointing and doing like the gesture of an argument where you're telling somebody that they're wrong, but you don't say any words. You just go, ha, 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 ha. The reason we do ha, 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 he, ha, ha, or ho, 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 is because those words tell our body that we're laughing as well. So it helps. So anyway, one person is doing this, and the other person is giving an indicator of I'm sorry, but not using actual words, just going ha, 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 ho, 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 like this. So it goes around the room, and she was on to my left, and gets to her where she's the arguer. And in addition to her doing this, she starts indicating that she wanted to slap and punch me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, she's got some real aggression going on. And so I figured by the end of class, because it runs an hour, I figured by the end of class, she was just going to just bolt out of there. And she comes up to me. She says, that was so good. I needed this so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's amazing how laughter really is the common language among everyone. It really is. Because when we can laugh together, we have joy together. And I've seen people who, like I had someone in my class who had just lost her husband of 40 years, and she was laughing to cry because she was having trouble crying it out. And so she laughed and would go into tears, but it was positive tears and thinking about the good times there. I had another person who he was in Vietnam War, and they had lung damage because of asbestos. And so he was laughing, and it would cough out the asbestos
Oh,
out,
wow.
the damage through his lungs. He was getting better from it. I had another person who she was horribly depressed, and her friend got her to come. And at the end of class, she got up, she stood up on her chair, and she just said, I feel so good. It was like, and her friend said, I can't believe this. So it's an absolute delight to see what can happen. And the people who come regularly, it's a community, it's a family. And that's, it, I always mention to people that, you know, given that I grew up in such a dysfunctional family, but our friends are so precious, but our friends are our family we choose because those are the people we want to be around. And so, and when you have a group of people who enjoy laughing together, it becomes their own community, their own family, and it's really a pleasure.
It's I truly believe the part about the kids and versus the adults, because my 10-year-old laughs at some of the stupidest stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's like, would I laugh at what he's laughing at? Probably not, because it's dumb. But at the same time, why not? Why not laugh at it, And he definitely laughs way more than I do. I love jokes, all those kinds of things. We tell each other jokes all the time. We're a big laughing, hugging family, and it's definitely one of those, like, if we could just model after the kids sometimes, I think in a lot of the ways, so much more of society in general would be better, not just for laughing, but also like expressing yourself sometimes and playing in general, I think. So how did you first discover laughter yoga yourself? Was it something that someone told you about? Did someone drag you to a class?
No, I actually was in downtown San Francisco I don't remember if it was a Saturday or a Sunday. And I was walking through Embarcadero Center, and there's a little park nearby. And I saw these people, and they were laughing. And I was thinking, what is going on here? Are these people crazy? There you go. It's the adult. Why are they laughing? They shouldn't be laughing. That's not normal. They should be, they only should be laughing if they're watching funny videos or jokes or something like that. They were just doing activities and laughing. I'm looking and going, what? And they pulled me into it. And so I learned about it from there. And I thought, wow, this is really something. And so I decided that I wanted to become certified in it because I wanted to bring it back to my community. And so it was I got trained in January of 2020. My first class got canceled because it was scheduled for March of 2020, and boom, COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so, we did some Zoom ones, which, if it's better to do a Zoom one than nothing at all.
Yeah.
But there's something about being in person where you're all around together where it just works like magic. And it's so much fun to do it. And I decided when I did my TEDx talk, I decided to take people through a laughter exercise. And the TEDx people were saying, "Oh no, you can't do that because if you've ever watched a TEDx talk, it's all one, the speaker to the audience or the speaker to the viewers. There's no interaction. Maybe somebody making a little bit of a laughter or something you may hear, but usually you don't even hear that laughter because the mics are not on the audience." And so they were telling me, "Oh no, you can't do this because it's all about the cameras being on you." Well, I still wanted to do it, and I took the risk, and it worked like a charm. It really did. And people came to me after the talk, as well as different people who watched it later, and they said, "Oh my gosh," sending me messages, "This works really well." And it's true. If you just get out of your head and just give it a try. and see. I mean, you just have to get out of the idea of, oh, I'm laughing, I need to have a reason to laugh. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And I have probably 150 different activities that I'll take throughout the classes that I rotate through them because I don't want them to get bored of the same. Like there's classic, if you were to say, what are the 10 most common laughter yoga activities? Yeah, everybody does those.
Yeah.
And so I like to mix it up, and I also bring into it some jokes because Dr. Kataria says no jokes, no jokes at all, and the reason is because when he started it with a group of his friends, they started just telling jokes. Well, they ran out of jokes. And then, once you've heard the joke, it's not necessarily funny afterwards. So they had to figure out a different way. And that's why the current way of laughter yoga does it. But I bring in appropriate jokes. I also bring in improv because people like to do improv. It's different activities, keep it a variety. And it is amazing how I let the class members be the stars. It's just I facilitate it. They're the stars, and it's so much fun to watch.
That's great. I'm gonna have to look and see if there's one that I can drag my children. Okay, so let me ask you this: what's the average age range in one of your classes? Is it mostly adults? Do you get any kids who come in and do it as well?
Yes. Yes. If so, the kids, if they come, let's say with grandma or a mom or something like that, they usually will have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If it's kids together that come in, like friends, then it's a little more challenging. And the reason being, you know where I'm going with this. What happens is that they all have to be cool.
Yes.
They have
Oh,
to sit
yes,
back.
of course.
Nope, can't laugh. And literally, so I taught this one class where it was for the Parks and Recs department. And the students who were in that class, they were told that they need to learn how to do an activity, just one activity that they could bring back to their community. And they were paid to be in this. It was a government sponsored program. So, I could see a couple of them were really thinking that some of these activities were funny, but they were doing everything they could not to smile.
Oh, yeah.
Because the pressure of their peers, oh no, you can't be smiling, you can't laugh, this is don't give in to this. And so it really, but individual kids in the classes, or if it's, maybe a brother and sister, or, siblings that are, as you said, like your family likes to laugh together. If they laugh together, then it's going to be no issues. But typically, it's going to be, depending on the time of day. If it's not during work hours, like Monday through Friday work hours, then the age range is going to be less. If it's during work hours, mostly it's going to be older adults, a lot of retired folks that don't have to go into the office or something for that. It doesn't matter what the age range is. It's unbelievable how people just can start laughing together. Different generations, different races. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. I know we mentioned it a couple times, but I want to talk about it a little more because laughter is often just thought of as this reaction to humor, but you're talking about there's science behind it. Like your body can't tell the difference. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about that a little more? What is the science behind not only tricking your body, but also how does laughter kind of translate into being a tool to reduce stress?
Well, like I said, it's the positive endorphins that are released. It just takes most of the research says 6 to 8 seconds. My experience is 5 to 6 seconds. But the reducing the stress, the thing is that when, let's say, when someone is stressed, and a lot of times it could be something about a relationship. or they lost a job, something like that. Those are common ones, or financial issues. Losing a job typically heads to financial issues. So often what ends up happening is depression. And what ends up happening when we're depressed, what do we want to do? We don't want to be around anybody. We basically are in this feeling that, oh, we're a loser. There's nobody who understands how we feel, etc. Well, so the science shows that when people who have depression are around others, and are around others who are laughing, who are positive, who are enjoying laughing for no reason other than to laugh, that removes the depression in so many ways. Clinically, it's been I said there was 35 clinical research studies from all over the world, and a big chunk of them are on depression itself, and just shows clinically how people can overcome feeling depressed, being alone, because when we're alone in our depression, what ends up happening is thoughts of suicide come up. We don't take care of ourselves. And when we're around others who are willing to accept us and laugh with us, and that's the key. Laughing, everybody knows how to laugh, and it's that common denominator that we all have from a positive standpoint. It just brings up our overall well-being. And so people who, if they would have just stayed home and just wanted to be alone and not do anything, and then they've come to experience this and get a little bit of laugh themselves, even if they don't do the outward full laughter, if we just smile, that smile is sending a signal to our bodies that we're enjoying ourselves, we're happy, and that releases those positive endorphins as well. So it's just a matter of the clinical research all shows this, that if someone just gets out of their head that they don't have to have a reason to laugh, just go with it, positive results will follow.
I think there's a similar study about human contact as well. It's like 6 to 10 seconds of a hug releases a certain something or other. I'm not saying it's the same thing as laughter, but there is something in that like time frame of you need 6 to 10 seconds exposure to something to get your body to say, oh, this is what we're doing. Oh, this is what's happening. Oh, this is the connection I'm making. It's really interesting that it's kind of the same time frame. I can't remember if it was hugs or what it was.
It's personal. Hugs have a shorter time frame to release those positive endorphins. I believe it's 3-4 seconds, if I remember correctly. But it's any kind of positive human contact. Sure. So it could be just shaking hands. It could be a quick hug, just a very fast, quick one like that. It could be a pat on the back. It depends on what the reaction is, but it is exactly right. It's the same thing. It's all about those positive endorphins being released. Yeah. And so, and humans need to be around other humans. I know that introverts say, oh, well, I don't want I need my alone time. Absolutely. And, I'm more extroverted, but I need my alone time as well. But there is, we are social creatures, and introverts are very social in a one-on-one conversation. So you still need that other person to have that conversation and feel like you're being heard, that you've got a connection with someone. And so it really, that it's one of the things that I always recommend as well is if you're having coffee with or having dinner with, lunch with, somebody who's important to you in your life, whether it's a personal connection or somebody you work with, whatever it happens to be, turn off your phone and ask the other person to do the same. Because when, I'm sure you know this, when you're talking with somebody, and like, let's say you and I are having this great conversation right now. And if I was to say, oh, wait a second, my phone is ringing, or my phone just pinged me, and I've got, oh, like this while you're talking. What am I communicating to you?
That phone is more important than I am. Yeah.
Exactly. But if we just put the phones down, put it, leave it in your car if you want, or just put it down, turn it off. It's not going to blow up if you don't respond to the message right away. Go ahead and have a conversation with the other person and be fully present. It's amazing. Conversation how well it will go. I've got a new appreciation, or I shouldn't say new appreciation. I still have a great appreciation for restaurants, because when COVID hit, we couldn't go out, right? Yeah. So I still really enjoy being at a restaurant and, the ambiance and the sounds and everything like that. But I always see, whether it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people that are sitting at a table, and all of them are on their phone, not talking at all. And I think to myself, why did you bother coming to the restaurant? Why didn't you just get takeout? Because you're obviously not there to have a conversation or an experience. So it's treat the other person on the other side of the table with the importance that they deserve. It really, and they will respond in kind.
At least you should have a conversation and say, like, hey, do you prefer to keep your phone on? Do you prefer to keep your phone off? Because I know in some situations, like, it makes people more comfortable to have that as kind of like having a newspaper or a book or something, just to have that some sort of barrier between them and the other person. And that's totally valid, but communicate with the other person. I prefer to have my phone off. Do you mind turning yours off as well? Do you prefer to have it on? Have that conversation. And I think sometimes you'd be surprised at what the other person prefers. I've got a good girlfriend who we go to lunch and we'll spend hours at lunch, which is wonderful, because we're both moms. Neither of us have time. It takes us months to get together and all this stuff. And it's like the only times we pick up our phones are, oh, I have to show you this picture of my oldest. Oh, I have to show you this picture. Let me show you this video of my kid's tennis match. Like, so we pick up our phones for those kinds of things. But yeah, we barely even look at them, and it's great. It's wonderful. It's fantastic, because you're able to just really, really connect in with the other person, and it's fantastic.
It is. And one thing too, from a stress relief standpoint, there's a lot of us have to have our phones because of work.
Yeah.
And
or kids,
I or kids or whatever. Yeah. But let's if we focus on work now, often what I used to do before I learned better is that I would always be checking my email and my work text messages all evening, all weekend long, on my vacation. Well, the problem is that doesn't give your brain the time to recharge. Now, I'm not talking about, I turned it, I went to sleep. That's, what happens if the phone pings you in the middle of the night? Then what do? You wake up and you look at it. Problem is that we need to have this recharge ability. And when we're checking our messages in the evenings, on the weekends, on our vacation, we don't disconnect. And the problem is, like, let's say we want to go for a week vacation. Well, the average person on a vacation takes 3 days to wind down from work. And then 3 days before going back to work, we start winding back up. The problem is, if we're checking our messages every day, we haven't done the wind down. And so literally, we don't disconnect enough to give us that recharge. And even if we take a 1-week vacation, the fact that we have those 3 days to wind down and then those 3 days to wind back up, it really turns out that a 7-day vacation is Wednesday.
Right.
That's it. And so we really do need to take that time, because that's why we get vacation. It's supposed to be taking that time. And, what I used to do after I learned the hard way, when I would go on vacation after that, I found a really, really powerful thing I could do. I would, just go ahead and put on my email, for example, and out of office. And I won't be checking messages until, whatever the day is I'm getting back. But what I would do is, let's say I was flying back home the day before. Okay. I would download my emails just before I got on the plane. And what was really amazing is that, let's say on average, I used to get 200 emails a day, work emails a day. And if I didn't respond to them right away, it was amazing how, with my out of office of who they should contact, how those things would rectify themselves. And literally, so let's say a 1-week vacation, so a couple hundred, emails, at least I'd have at least 1,000 emails. Of those 1,000 emails in my inbox, I could delete easily 980 of them.
Yeah.
Because they had resolved themselves.
Yep.
So you don't have to be constantly checking. The world will not come unglued if you don't check your work messages on a particular day. And that and if you think that you can't because, well, that's a boundary issue. You really have to set the proper boundary that says, no, I am going to not check my messages for whatever time I am, that's my time, and just stick with it.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point in my career where I'm like, I'm not taking my laptop. I'm uninstalling Teams and Outlook from my phone. I don't uninstall them, but I disable them completely. Like if I want to open them, I have to go through extra steps to open them. But I'm also, on my out of office, I say, not only am I out of office and not checking emails, I'm not checking them when I get back either. If you need me, reach out to me again when I get back. And it's even better because I can just mark all as read and be like, whatever comes back up when I get back, that's what I need to address. If it doesn't come back up in my inbox, or if you don't contact me on Teams after I'm back, it wasn't worth it.
That's a great idea. It's what I'd call that is email purge.
Yes, it
it's
is.
basically, you just go ahead when you download all those you connect into for the first time, just what is it? You click on the first email and you scroll down to the bottom.
Yep.
Control A or Shift, whatever it is. It selects them all. Hit delete.
Yep. I don't go that far. I don't delete them, but I do mark them all as read. And I'm like, I'm not reading all that. That's not happening. But I used to be very much like, I would take my laptop to a beach vacation, and I didn't feel like I had the seniority to say, no, I'm not doing that. I didn't feel like I didn't have the confidence in myself to say, no, I need to be working. But I am to the point now where not only have I recognized the company's not going to be loyal to me, they're not going to give this loyalty back that I am giving them. Why would I do that? They're not more important than my health. Why am I doing this? But also, it's not worth my time and my mental energy sometimes to do this. I'm putting myself through extra steps that I don't need to put myself through. So, and I encourage all of my team members. I had someone who joined my team within the past 6 months or so. And she was like, okay, well, I have this vacation plan. I was like, great. Okay, go on your vacation. She said, well, I'll take my laptop with me. I'm like, don't take it. It's not worth it. And so it's like, I'm trying to tell, like, every person that I can. Don't do that.
Yeah, but it's true. You have people that report to you.
Yeah.
They, set the standard for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If and what's interesting too, one of the things that I found worked really well for me as well is when email allowed us to send a message at a certain time.
Scheduling.
So
Yeah.
scheduling it. So what happened was is that I'm still the type where I want to get something done. And so if I want to send an email or reply to something like that, what I can do without bothering somebody who reports to me and making them feel like they got to deal with it right away, especially if they're wired like me, I can schedule it to go first thing in the morning, and then they'll
Yeah.
deal with it when they get into the office, and that way it's off my plate, but it's not on their plate on their own time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's another thing that works out really well. It's figuring it out in a way that works for both you and your team. It really is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna bring us back to laughter yoga.
Okay.
I love going down rabbit holes, so I wind up going down a lot of them.
Okay.
There you go. I love that. If someone has never heard of laughter yoga before, they're new to the concept, what is the easiest way for them to incorporate laughter in their daily routine, even if they don't feel like they're in the particular mood to laugh?
Yeah, it's a great question. So think about a certain thing, a good one. Okay, so a lot of us who live, let's say, in areas where there's a good chunk of traffic. So you know how when we're running late, we start stressing, and inevitably, when we start stressing about running late, what's going to happen? We're going to be hitting more red lights.
Oh yeah.
We're going to hit more traffic, whatever it happens to be. So instead, think about, like, let's say if all of a sudden you didn't get that, you hit that red light, instead of going, crap, blah, 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 or whatever swear words you want to use, do this, just laugh. Just try it. Now, yes, will it feel weird? Yes. You think if you start thinking, oh, what if somebody sees me? Well, okay, you're in your car. If somebody sees you laughing, how do they not know that you're maybe on a phone call with someone and you're laughing? You're listening to a fun podcast. You heard something funny on the radio, whatever it happens to be. Just get out of that, oh, what is somebody else going to think about me? Because laughing, that's another reason why as adults it's harder for us to laugh, because we want to look like, oh, okay, we're cool. We're not going to laugh because that's not what the normal thing you would do. Who cares? You just go ahead and laugh. So if you try, and even if you laugh for 10 seconds before dealing with something, it's amazing how much better you will feel, and it clears up your energy, clears up your mind, so that then you can deal with whatever it is in a better, more positive nature for, that's best for your health. That the activity that I did for the TEDx talk was one that I just created for that talk, but I've utilized it with a lot of people since then, and because everybody can relate to it. So I'll walk you through it so that those that are watching can do it too. So put your hand out like you were holding your phone. So go ahead and do that, and imagine that you just received a text, a Slack message, an email, whatever it is, from a person or organization you respect, and that is a really challenging message. It could be negative, it could be a hard, whatever it is. And look at that message for a couple of seconds and just kind of think about how that would make you feel. Take a deep breath. And then, with your other hand, go ahead and point at that imaginary message.
Oh, I have to switch hands because this thumb doesn't work very well, so we'll switch.
Okay, so there. And what you're going to start doing is laugh at that message for 10 seconds. Keep going. That's 10 seconds. Feel better, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes you feel lighter, more energy. And then, it's like, okay, now I can take this message on. But if we don't give ourselves that 10 seconds to help reduce our stress and to ground us, what do? We go right into, the tension.
Yeah.
And that's just not healthy for ourselves.
I also feel like the physical act of laughing does relieve some tension, like from your neck and kind of your
Yes, it
back, because
does.
your body is going to move around a little bit while you're laughing, and it's great.
Exactly. Exactly.
And as far as people, I just want to put this out there because as far as people judging you while you're driving, if I drive by someone and they're laughing hysterically in their car, I'm like, I wonder what they're listening to. How come I can't listen to something that funny? It's like
true.
not once have I seen someone laughing in their car and been like, what a dumbass. Like that's never once crossed my mind. I'm just like, I wonder who they're talking to. That's so funny. And how come I'm not talking to that person right now?
Exactly. It's like that old When Harry Met Sally. I'll have what she's having. Because we want to have it, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's a different kind of want to have it. We've talked about a lot of different things, but I would love to know for someone who is a high achieving professional who is constantly dealing with things like deadlines and pressure, what do you think is the most impactful change that they could make to reduce stress?
Yeah, I would say a game changer would be making sure that they uh, professionally, or at least make sure that you clearly articulate your personal values as it relates to work. And the reason I say that, we all have a pretty good sense of what our personal values are, but it's amazing how impactful doing an activity to clarify and identify what your top 4, 5, 6, what I would call deal breakers are.
Yeah.
Because when you know very specifically what your personal values are in a particular area of your life, in your career, your relationships, family, you name it, then whenever you are faced with a challenging decision, such as, let's say, you're running a business and you have to make a decision as to, do you want to acquire this company, or maybe you want to move into a new building, or you got to make this important hire, whatever it happens to be. If you run that decision through your top personal values, and that decision is not in alignment with any one of those 4, 5, or 6 top ones that you have, I guarantee if you still make that decision, you are going to add additional stress to your life because you're not being true to yourself. Our personal values are our North Star. And when we're very clear on know what those are, the decisions that we make will be in alignment with who we are. And that reduces our stress enormously. I did a video on how to do this. I can put that link in the video if you want, so
Yeah,
that
that'd be
people can
great.
take a look and see. Okay, so I will do that.
Yeah, because I was going to
I
ask
don't
if there
know.
was a specific resource to kind of help build those personal values
Mm-hmm.
out. Because it's easy to say, like, what are your personal values? It's another thing to be able to really articulate them. So if you've got a good resource, yes, I will absolutely. I'll add that in the description and all of that and send the
Yep.
link and everything for sure.
I'll definitely put that. And the only suggestion I make for people is make sure that it only takes roughly 10 minutes, believe it or not, to do a game-changing activity. But make sure that you're doing it without any distractions, because you really do need to concentrate when you figure out what those are, because if you don't concentrate, it's not going to be really effective for you, because something's going to get skipped or misdirected. So
that's
so
fair.
definitely take a look at it. So basically the video that I have, you just put it on pause in certain points. Go ahead and do what you need, and then you start it again, pause it again, do what you need. But like I said, just make sure you don't have, it's not while you're busy at work, or you've got the kids screaming, or any other particular reason. Just do it when you have some quiet time.
Yeah. Not while you're cooking dinner.
No, it's not one of these multitasking things. Do this as your only task.
Yeah. I love a multitask, that's for sure.
We all do, but especially the ones that are, type A personalities. But research has shown that multitasking actually slows us down.
Yeah.
And the reason being, it's very simple here. We're more likely to make a mistake when we're multitasking.
Yes. Yeah.
And what happens when we make a mistake? We got to go back and redo it. So, and there was actually a research study that it was fascinating. It showed that if somebody has like one thing that they're working on at a time, they'll get it done on time, get everything there. But let's say that typically, the average worker might have 5 things they're working on, and they're back and forth multitasking all of these different activities. Now, what happens is the time that we spend ramping down from one activity, then ramping up to the other activity, and vice versa, back and forth, what ends up happening is so much time is wasted on that ramp up, ramp down, that if it's 5 projects you're working on, 80% of your time is wasted in that ramp up, ramp down. So instead of thinking that, okay, my whole day I can get all these things done, probably not, because you've wasted 80% of your day just transitioning from one to the other.
Yeah.
So it's just and then that doesn't even include the mistakes you might make. And so then you have to go back and correct those. And when you have to go back and correct a mistake, guess what? There's stress involved with that too. So add to it too.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think I know the study that you're talking about. It's something about like task switching, or I think it's the APA study. Yeah, it's a really good one to go and read if you have a chance to go read that one. But yeah, I mean, you're not multitasking, you're multi-half-assing. That's all that it is. You're half-assing this task and you're half-assing that task. I will say the only exception, and this is hard for me to even admit sometimes because I find myself drifting off, is if you're like doing a physical task and also a listening task. Sometimes those can go like even if they're unrelated. Mowing the lawn, listening to music. Fine.
Yes.
Cooking dinner, listening to a podcast. Fine. But even then, like sometimes I'll be like, okay, what was I doing while I was cooking? Because I was invested in this podcast. What was I, and what just happened in this? Because I was paying attention to this over here cooking. So like, yeah, even that sometimes. But there are, of course, exceptions, just like there are exceptions to everything. But
well, it does. And I'll get on the elliptical and I'll be reading, whatever articles and stuff like that. And it actually is very helpful for me because being on an exercise machine is very mundane for me.
Yeah.
So what this does is this puts my mind on something else and I totally forget that I'm on the machine.
Yeah.
And it actually works great.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we are coming up on our last couple of questions. So folks who are here live with us, if you have any questions for Pete, make sure that you get them into the chat. We will address them while we're here. For those of you who have said hi while we've been going, I see you. Thank you for being here. Pop your questions in and we'll get them addressed. So Pete, what is your favorite life hack?
Oh, my favorite life hack is gratitude. And so what I mean by that is, I learned, and it actually, it came from different books that I read, but what I learned was that if I'm grateful for the little things in life, I'm going to attract more positive things in my life. And so, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I'm grateful because I have a house, I have a car, whatever it happens to be." Well, yeah, those are big things. But what about the little things that happen during the day? And so my wife and I, we have an activity we do every night before we go to bed. And either she asks me or I ask her, "What are you grateful for today?" And so when she asks me, I always start with, "I'm grateful for my health because all else is secondary, because I lost my health due to the
Yeah.
stress." And then I recap the things that come to my mind. And so, for example, the conversation we had is going to be one of my gratitude uh, uh, lists. And so what happens is that when you recap with gratitude things that happen during the day, it ends the day on a real positive note. And you can even get into the habit of being grateful when you first wake up in the morning. In fact, there was a book I read many years ago called The Happiness Equation. And the author, he talked about at the time, there were roughly 7 billion people on Earth. I think it's 8 billion now. But he went into it and he said, in the history of the world, um, there's been about 115 billion people who have ever lived on Earth. 7 billion are alive today. So that means that roughly 14 out of 15 people who have ever lived on Earth are dead. The fact that you woke up in the morning means that you hit the lottery. Be grateful for it. And it's so true. So if you get into the habit of being grateful for certain things, we were talking about the red lights earlier. I now, when I hit a green light, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Or if I caught the ferry or I caught the train, the subway, you know, because I thought I was going to miss it, but I catch it. I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Why? Because I'm sending it out to the universe that I would like to attract back more positive energy. When we are not grateful for the good things that happen to us, well, what happens is that we're likely, but we get mad at what doesn't go well for us.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We're going to bring more negative energy into our lives because we're focusing on the negative instead of focusing on the positive. So that life hack of having gratitude, it's a game changer.
I I do a couple of things with my kids, and one of them I picked up from one of these conversations that I had a long, long time ago. But the first thing that we do in the morning, well, not the first thing. The first thing that we do is try to make sure they're getting ready for school. Most of the time, they're not. But what we do before school is we have this bowl of affirmations that we pull out, and it's things like I'm thankful for my body and all the things it can do, and just all these little things. And whether they really internalize those or not is fine, because I just want to start the day off with them saying something positive, whether they believe it or not. That's fine. But then after school, we go through this set of questions. And one of them is, what's something positive that happened today? One of them is, what's something negative that happened today? And that's just like, I want them to be able to acknowledge this wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But then we go into, what's something you're hopeful for? And so it really kind of bookends that, like, what's something good? What's something bad? What's something you're hopeful for in the future? And I really think
Mm-hmm.
that, giving them that little sandwich, which is a review technique, like, you always, or a bad news delivery technique as well. You always want to sandwich
Mm-hmm.
things with the positive. But just giving them that opportunity to really reflect on their day, I think, has been really helpful. And of course, they do the questions back to me, so I wind up doing the same thing back with them. But one thing that you said really kind of, I want to revisit a little bit. This is taking us back to the topic, so not quite done yet. But would you say there's a better time in the day to do things like focus on laughter for 10 seconds? If you're gonna say, I'm only gonna do this once a day, is there a better time, or is it just whenever you fit it in? Right before bed? Right when you wake up?
For I wouldn't do laughter right as you're going to bed. And the reason being is because typically laughter gives us some additional energy.
Yeah.
So if you're a light sleeper like you and I are, probably not the best bet. So if you're I would say if you were going to pick one time of the day that you do it, I would do it first time when you first wake up in the morning. Because if you can do it before you start thinking the classic, okay, what do I got to do today? Right? And that's what we so get programmed into
Oh, yeah.
is to say immediately, okay, I got to, I'm getting up, I got to do dot, 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 dot. You know, if you take 10 seconds and you laugh first, hey, you're off to a great start. And it could be a perfect day. And then, if it's only those 10 seconds, so be it. If you start getting into the habit of laughing off certain things instead of immediately getting upset by them, you're going to train yourself because it's clinically it shows that something becomes a habit between 22 and 60 days. So if you get into the habit of, let's say, first thing in the morning, laughing for 10 seconds before anything else. I mean, and think about it. You could do it as you're walking to the bathroom. It's like unless you got the toilet right next to your bed, chances are it's going to take you 10 seconds to get to the toilet. You could be just doing a laugh for that. And if you get into the habit and you do that for a minimum of 22 days, could take 60 days, but if you do that every day for up to 60 days, it's going to just be second nature to you. And then once it's second nature, you're going to have the compound benefits over time. And those compound benefits will be enormous. You just got to make it a habit.
I love that. And I'm thinking about, like laughing at my coffee while it's making itself in my coffee maker. Stand there because my brain doesn't turn on until coffee happens. So I got a little bit of time at least.
I can appreciate it. Like our coffee maker, it's an older one, and we haven't replaced it yet for one reason and one reason alone. You know how most coffee makers it's pours a little bit and then it goes a little bit lighter and then pours more and then a little bit lighter. And so every time it goes lighter, it kind of groans. And it's so funny. So it's like the coffee maker needs coffee. So until it completely craps out, we're keeping it because it just makes us laugh.
That's excellent. That is excellent and very fitting. They need to make it a feature. Be like, this is a feature, not a bug.
It's not just you. It's the coffee maker.
Yeah. Put it in a commercial. That's definitely ad worthy for sure. All right. Well, it is time for the magic moment of the stream. So if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
Ooh, you know what I would say is you don't have to be a people pleaser. Being a people pleaser, that's not something that's effective. What I would highly recommend, and it's something that I actually keep on my computer monitor, because I was a chronic people pleaser. It came from the dysfunctional family background I had where, I always had to seek others' approval. And so I absolutely love this. It's just a note that I tell myself, and it basically says, that you are not pizza. You're not going to be liked by everyone. And I just, it's a great reminder. If we can all realize that we're not pizza, it just remind yourself, I'm not pizza. So if somebody, and this goes for so many different applications, whether, it's at work where there's somebody, somebody who you just don't get along with for whatever reason, fine. You're not pizza with that. You're not the person. You're not going to be pizza for that person. Or I don't know if everyone listening has had this. I know I've had it a few times on social media. You get a troll, and
Yeah.
it's like you can get really upset with that, or you can say, "I'm not pizza, not that person. I'm not that person's person." Um, I used to when I remember back when I first started teaching college classes, and at the end of the class, I'd have 40 students, and they'd have a class evaluation that they would fill out. I wouldn't see it until after the class was done, and they'd send it to me, and I'd see it, and I'd see 39 of 40 would say this was the best class I've ever had. And I'd get one where I didn't like the class. What would I do? I would sit there with that one and I'd go, where did I fail? Right?
Yeah.
Instead of saying 39 out of 40 loved the class. So just remember, you're not pizza. You're not going to be liked by everyone. Don't try and be a people pleaser to everyone.
That's a great one. And as a fellow people pleaser trying to be in recovery at times, I feel that. I feel that very hard. Bite Mark would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
Ooh, favorite poem? Boy, I haven't. So there was one, oh gosh, back. When did I read this one? It was had to have been in 1991, and it was. I've been a member of Adult Children of Alcoholics, um, and it was a poem about the inner child, and it really resonated with me, and it was an anonymous one, so there isn't someone attributed to it, and it basically talked about walking with your inner child, using visualization, walking with your inner child along the beach and letting that inner child take your hand and be able to come out, because that's what happens when you're in a horribly dysfunctional family. Your inner child tends to go hiding, and you want to bring that child out like it was a real child. And so I just remember that one being a wonderful poem, and it resonated so well with me and helped me through my recovery for several years later. And that one would be number one on my list.
I love that. I wonder if I can find the same one. Like there's several that are talking about kind of this.
Yes, so look for basically in adult children a poem. Each walk, maybe that's what it would be. I'd have to
Okay.
look in my books because it's in one of my books. I don't, and I probably have it bookmarked, or at least
Beach Walk by Henry
page fingers.
Cole. Does that sound? Let's see.
I don't remember it being. I don't remember it being someone attributed to it, but
Oh, this
maybe
one's
they
talking
by
about
now.
a baby shark they found on the beach. That's definitely not
No,
it.
that's not it. Because after I saw Jaws in the theater as a kid, sharks and me were like very, very much not on friendly terms.
All right, I'll have to look. I'll have to dig into that one and see if I can find the right one. It's not this baby shark one for sure.
No,
Well,
definitely not. But it could be that Henry one, because it's all it if later on, I mean, because I'm talking 1991 that I read it, and it was anonymous back then, but it
yeah,
certainly could have been attributed later.
sure, sure. Well, I'm going to post your socials one more time. So, folks, if you are looking to connect with Pete, you can do that. And like I said at the beginning, engagement is king. So make sure that you go in and you like a couple posts and you leave a couple comments, all those things. Following is not enough these days. Do all the things. A little bit of homework for you, but I'm going to post those one more time. And while I'm doing that, Pete, I'll just give you the floor. If there's anything we didn't talk about or anything you have going on that you want to put out there, I'll just let you talk for a little bit. Go right ahead.
Sure. Since we talked about laughter yoga, if you're interested in checking it out, what I would suggest is you go to laughteryoga.org. That's the website that Dr. Kataria's foundation started, and there are clubs. You can search for clubs and see if there's preferably I would say a physical club if you can get to one, because the laughter being contagious. It's much easier in person. But the vast majority of laughter clubs are on Zoom. And so basically you can just connect and see. If you do go try out one of those laughter clubs, like I said, try it twice. Because the first time's, I guarantee you, the first time's going to be odd.
Yeah.
Because it's not, as an adult, it just doesn't come naturally because we're thinking, we have to have a funny cat video or we have to tell a joke or something like that. So you have to get out of your head about it. And that usually happens on the second time. And then the second time you know what's going to happen and just go ahead and try it out and see if you like it. You may find that, I just had somebody recently who was visiting in my area and lives in Bozeman, Montana, and she decided that she wanted to get trained and is going back to Bozeman, Montana to offer the class in person in her community. So you might get inspired, but if nothing else, you get a few laughs. So that's one thing. Like I said, I'll go ahead and put there'll be the link to personal values video. I highly recommend you do that. It's a game changer. And just remember that you don't want to trade your health for your career or other responsibilities. And a lot of people say, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, if I like to ask people, do you remember the last time that you were really, really sick? And, if you're honest with yourself, you can remember a time when you had a really bad flu, cold, you name it. And if it was a bad bout, chances are you didn't feel like doing anything other than lying in bed. And when you only have the energy to lie in bed, what good are you to your career, to your business, to your loved ones? Don't take your health for granted. It's too important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you just spending this amount of time this late at night as well. So thank you for being here. And chat, give me just a minute to disconnect with Pete and we will be right back. But again, thank you for taking this time.
It was completely my pleasure, and I certainly appreciated the listeners' time as well.
Absolutely. And that wraps up today's episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. I want to thank Professor Pete Alexander for joining me and sharing his powerful story, along with practical tips for managing stress and prioritizing our health. From learning how stress can physically impact our bodies to discovering the unexpected power of laughter yoga, there's a lot we can take from this conversation and apply to our daily lives. How often do we brush off stress as just another part of life, only to feel the toll it's taking on our minds and bodies later? Pete's experience is a reminder that ignoring those early warning signs can lead to serious consequences. But it's also a reminder that it's never too late to make a change, to find tools that work for you, and to start putting your health first. Whether it's trying out a laughter yoga session, practicing those quick moments of mindful humor Pete mentioned, or just giving yourself permission to take a break, small steps can add up in big ways. Now, if this episode got you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you the most? What's one small thing you could try today to reduce your stress? You can share with me on social media. I'm at MommaFoxFire everywhere. Or even better, leave a comment or review wherever you're listening. It's not just about connecting with me, it's about boosting this community and really building that support and encouragement for everyone tuning in. And hey, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Even Tacos Fall Apart so you don't miss future episodes. I've got more incredible guests and topics coming up that I know you'll love. Your reviews and ratings help get these conversations out to more people who might need them. So if you've got a minute, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that 5-star button or just leave a quick review. Thanks again for spending time with me today. Remember, even when life feels overwhelming, you're not alone, and you deserve to take care of yourself. I'll see you next time on Even Tacos Fall Apart. Until then, take a deep breath, Find a reason to smile and give yourself the same kindness you show to others.